We spend most of our lives chasing the idea that securing wealth, fulfilling duties, or avoiding painful choices will finally bring us peace. Rajesh B. Mehta's book, 3 Stories, 1 Truth, confronts this exact mirage head-on. It traces the lives of 3 distinct individuals: a young man driven to conquer his impoverished roots, a woman carrying the crushing weight of her family's survival, and a man who chose silence over the risk of a broken heart. By all conventional metrics, they played the game correctly. They built bank accounts, performed expected sacrifices, and maintained the appearance of stable, quiet lives. Yet the rigid structures they built to protect themselves ultimately collapsed from the inside out. Which brings us to a harsh question. Why do our intense efforts to control our circumstances through money, sacrifice, or avoidance leave us entirely hollow? Our first narrative begins in a mud house in Haryana. A young boy uses sheer academic discipline to pull his family out of poverty, landing a corporate job and eventually starting his own business. The pride of bringing home his first salary is pure. But as his business expands, the need for financial security mutates into an addiction to the status that money buys. He chases faster, shadier deals, trading his integrity for rapid expansion. When the market turns, his unreliable partners vanish, the debts mount, and his hard-earned reputation evaporates overnight. Sitting in the wreckage of his ambition, his father offers him a stark reality check. A mistake might destroy your bank balance, but you have to salvage your own character before the loss destroys your humanity. His actual failure occurred long before the bankruptcy. He lost the moment he allowed the illusion of financial control to overwrite his identity. In our second narrative, Sujata shoulders a different kind of burden. She acts as the sole financial and emotional pillar for her sick mother and unemployed father, managing hospital bills, office deadlines, and domestic duties without a break. She begins suffering from severe insomnia, shortness of breath, and chest pains, but medical tests reveal no organic disease. Sujata is experiencing psychosomatic exhaustion. Her physical body is breaking down because her mind is collapsing under relentless stress. Her doctors stop prescribing traditional medicine and force a psychological intervention. They make her realize that martyring herself is not a sustainable care plan. Look at the mechanics of this caretaking. Operating purely on absolute duty without a relief valve inevitably crashes the system. Shifting to a model with firm boundaries, taking breaks, dividing tasks, and asking for help is the only way to keep the structure intact. Sujata realizes that carrying the weight of the world in silence is a trap. Real courage requires defining your limits and letting others step in. Our final archetype, Devlal, is forced to confront his past when he runs into his childhood friend, Amina, 20 years after he quietly walked out of her life. In his youth, Devlal felt the deep pull of their connection, but chose to say nothing. He moved to the city, got a job, and used distance to avoid the vulnerability of a real commitment. When they finally speak, Amina reveals a crushing truth. Even though she married someone else and built a stable life, she kept their unspoken bond alive internally for 2 decades. We often treat inaction as the safe route, but deciding not to act is still a choice, and as that silence sits, it burns downward. The words you refuse to say inflict a deeper, more permanent psychological wound than a relationship that simply ends. Devlal learns that dodging a difficult conversation didn't erase the feeling. Love persisted anyway, locked deep inside his regret and the inescapable reality of his own memory. The ruined businessman, the burnt-out caretaker, and the regret-haunted lover. All 3 had a wall where their constructed coping mechanisms shattered. This brings us to the core thesis of Mehta's book. You do not achieve peace by perfectly balancing your ledger, flawlessly managing everyone's health, or successfully hiding from your past. True stability required them to face exactly what they were running from. The businessman had to admit his own greed, Sujata had to accept her human limitations, and Devlal had to own his cowardice. Owning those dark, uncomfortable truths was the only foundation solid enough for them to actually rebuild their identities. It is incredibly easy to blame the economy, or the demands of family, or the passage of time. But the real victory is maintaining your grip on who you are when those external systems collapse around you. We cannot entirely control the forces of money, pain, or love. True peace only arrives the moment you stop running from the world and finally face yourself.